The question is, how old is old school? I'm driving this morning. I'm flipping through the XM channels. Guessing I was on XM, I was on BPM or Diplo's channel. And the host comes up and goes, we had a, call in and she requested some old school Martin Garrix. And then I didn't even see the track pop up yet. And I'm like, there's nothing that Martin Garrix could have done that's old school. And then it popped up, it's this track with Usher. And I thought maybe, they were going to do Animals, right? Because, he had a couple other tracks, but at the time it felt like he was probably going to be a one hit wonder. So I'm like, what is old school Martin Garrix? When I think of old school, I don't know, I'm thinking like maybe 90s hip hop is what I start thinking, like, roughly. I still listen to a lot of like early 2000s, like hip hop, metal, rock, that type of stuff. Give me the 90s hip hop, the 90s trance, rave, EDM type stuff. That's what when I think of old school hip hop, again, like the boom bap 90s hip hop type of stuff. So we're going to go back quite a ways here. Let's just say 20 plus years. The stuff I grew up on as a teenager. I don't know if I consider Martin Garrix. Even if he did something when he was like 6 years old, I'm not sure I'd consider that old school. But what is your definition of that? I'm curious. I don't think anything, and I'm sure it just depends on where you're at in life. From my age, if you're listening, if you're an older millennial, younger Gen Xer, early to mid 30s, early 40s, old school to you is probably, 90s, early 2000s, I'm guessing. I just don't think that Martin Garrix from 2015 is old school. But I'd be curious, like, what's your threshold? 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? Was it got to be a classic? Do we got to go back to the 50s, or the 60s, or the 70s? Jimi Hendrix? Is that old school? Eric Clapton? You can figure that's old school, classic rock type stuff. But Martin Garrix, I don't know, man. It's this was a banger of a track. He had a couple good tracks that came out, some good tunes. But 5 years ago, 6 years ago is old school now? I don't know, man. We've had some wishy-washy times in the last 20 years of music. I think we had some ups and downs, but I mean, think about it. A lot of 50 Cent stuff was 2000s, early 2000s, Eminem run, early 2000s. Do you calculate the earlier part of someone's career as old school? I mean, Eminem's been rapping for how long? Like at least 20 years, right? So maybe you think old school is the very beginning part of Eminem's career, back when he did that like Demon Inside, Ghost Stories type of horrorcore music. Like, do you go all the way back? I don't know. So maybe you think old school, you just think of someone's career. So 2014, I'm guessing, is when Animals dropped from Martin Garrix. So maybe old school is just the thought of like the original music they did, their first album, their first big hits. I think of it as a time frame. Like, to me, old school is, at least 15 years, right? 20 years. But maybe it's just about the some of their original work. I don't know. Anyways, I do a show called Lyrically Provoked. It's in 190 countries. You can catch me on Spotify and iTunes. But I take like pieces of song lyrics and, I talk about some of the thoughts that those lyrics inspire. So I'm always looking at music, and I'm looking at time frames, and it's just, I heard them say that this morning, and it's like, man, I don't know if I'd consider Martin Garrix old school. I don't know. But curious to know your thoughts. What's your threshold? Let me know. Drop a comment. Until then, I'm going to catch you on the next one.